Welcome to the Breastfeeding Friendly Community Organizations Recognition Program, presented by the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension, WIC Breastfeeding Peers Counselor Program, and Cochise Health and Social Services. In this training, you will learn the importance of being a breastfeeding-friendly organization and how to implement a successful program. Completion of this training is a requirement to organizations that are looking to pursue a recognition.
Let's meet our presenters. I am Priscilla Lord, the WIC Breastfeeding Peer Counselor with the Cochise County WIC program.
Hi, my name is Daniela Reed-Miller, and I am the Health Policy Manager with Cochise Health and Social Services.
And I'm Regan Durfus with the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension in Cochise County. I'm a program coordinator for a healthy eating program and a lactation consultant. All of our organizations are members of the Cochise County Breastfeeding Task Force, along with many other community partners. We have developed a program to support local work sites and places that serve the community to elevate their support for breastfeeding families. We already had a program in place where we worked with childcares to become breastfeeding friendly certified to enhance their capacity to support breastfeeding families. The task force determined that it was time to expand outreach to other areas of a breastfeeding mother's life, and so the Breastfeeding Friendly Community Recognition Program was developed. Before we proceed, we want to remind you that every organization looks different and has different capabilities. This webinar will attempt to address the most common issues that come up when becoming breastfeeding friendly certified. But as you move along in the recognition process, the team is available for tailored assistance. We invite you to take notes on any questions that come up during this webinar and email the team members at the addresses provided at the end of this webinar.
So what does it mean to be breastfeeding friendly? Well, there are four main components to it: policy, knowledge, practice, and promotion. A lactation policy exists to protect the rights of breastfeeding mothers, to inform staff about the policy, and train them on how to be supportive of breastfeeding mothers. Knowledge is translated into practice. Mothers are in a supportive, judgment-free environment to nurse and a private space to pump on her body's demand. Finally, the policies and practices are promoted within the agency and outside of it, and resources are available to support breastfeeding mothers. Let's talk more in detail about these components.
A policy is one of the most important tools that an organization has. A well-implemented policy can guide an organization to transform the working environment into a more productive and efficient one. A breastfeeding or lactation policy is a very important regulation that, when implemented properly, can provide support to the employee, which can translate into a positive return on investment, such as job retention. In 2010, Section 7 of the Fair Labor Standards Act was amended to require employers to provide basic accommodations such as time and space for breastfeeding mothers at work. Take a moment to review how the sample policy from the University of Arizona incorporates the Fair Labor Standards Act into its breastfeeding friendly support for employees. Even the best policy can be put to waste if it's just sitting on a shelf. Take a moment to consider how you will make sure that your staff are informed of this policy and the resources available to them. A breastfeeding-friendly organization also promotes and protects the breastfeeding rights of their visitors, patients, clients, and/or students. In Arizona, a woman is entitled to breastfeed her child in public and is not subject to indecent exposure laws per the following Arizona revised statutes. How will you ensure that visitors to your organization are informed of this policy and the resources available to them?
One of the breastfeeding components is staff knowledge. All staff need to have knowledge of what it means to be breastfeeding friendly.
the existence of federal, state, and organization policies, and a basic understanding of breastfeeding and the resources available. How will you ensure new staff have training on breastfeeding friendly? Some ideas can be having annual staff training and using the webinar for new hire orientation.
Support, break times, and private comfortable spaces are not luxuries. Instead, it is a biological need of breastfeeding mothers. American Academy of Pediatrics recommends exclusive breastfeeding for infants for the first 6 months of their life. In order to do this, mothers must have sufficient breast milk. How is breast milk made? Every time that milk is expressed from the breast, the body tells the breast to make more milk. If milk is not expressed and is staying inside the breast, no milk is made. The body says, don't make any more, we have enough. Breast milk operates on a supply and demand system. In order for breast milk to be expressed from the breast, moms have to be in a relaxed and stress-free environment. This is so that the hormone, oxytocin, can flow and allow the breast to express milk, to release the milk from her breast. If oxytocin is not present, the milk is not getting out. We already know now that it's important for milk to get out of the breast so that the body will continue making it, the supply and demand system. But it is also important to get milk out of the breast because if it doesn't, the mom is at risk for engorgement and infection risks. A bout of mastitis can lead to hospitalization, putting that mom out of work for days and can make her very, very sick and worse. The other thing that's really important to know about the basic breastfeeding mechanics is that the need to express and the frequency of the need can really vary. In the first few weeks of that infant's life, or the first few weeks of mom being back to work, moms may still need to express milk every 1 to 3 hours. As the baby gets older, mom's body should adjust to a schedule and may need to only be expressed 2 or 3 times within a workday. However, all moms and all babies are different, so it's important to have an individualized plan for this mom and this baby, because if the mom is sick, if the baby is sick, if the baby was premature, has other health issues, or is maybe just going through a growth spurt, there can be any variety of factors that would change the amount of times the mom needs to express milk throughout the day.
Here are some general tips to help support breastfeeding employees in your organization. Encourage discussion and planning about returning to work prenatally. Identify local supports and resources in your community. If exclusively breastfeeding, it is recommended to pump or nurse 8 to 12 times in a 24-hour period. Recommend starting back to work on a Wednesday or Thursday to ease the transition into the new routine. Consider a flexible work schedule if your organization allows it, and discuss how the whole team can support a breastfeeding mother. Maybe plan around nursing and pumping sessions, for example. We've learned about policy and knowledge. Now let's see how you can put it into practice. For staff, we want to make sure that the knowledge of resources is there. Good practice for management would be to make sure that those resources are shared with all staff. Inclusion of breastfeeding promotion regularly. Make sure there's a culture of support and understanding, and that there is a best possible physical space. And that includes it being private, free from intrusion, comfortable, and not a bathroom. For non-staff, making sure that there is a knowledge of resources, inclusion of breastfeeding promotion regularly, also a culture of support and understanding, and the best possible physical space, which would be private, free from intrusion, comfortable, and not a bathroom. Recognize that this will look different for the organizations. If you have the space, great. If you do not have the space, you can still honor breastfeeding laws. And note that it is not a requirement to have the space available to the public.
Every organization's practice is going to look a little bit different. The picture here with the lactation room, with the posters on the wall and the really comfortable, cute chair and the soft lighting, I think there's a sound machine in the back there. That's an ideal lactation space. However, we recognize that not every organization is going to have the capacity to redo an entire room to make it a lactation space. However, the minimum requirements for a private lactation space are a comfortable chair, an outlet, a surface of some kind, like you see here with that little table. It could be a desk, it could be a table, and as long as the breast pump can rest on there. The space also needs to be private and lockable. The ideal space would also have a sink and some kind of mini fridge inside to store the breast milk. However, again, that's not always where an organization can put a fridge and a sink. So as long as there is a fridge nearby and a sink nearby for that mom, that's acceptable. Part of being breastfeeding friendly in regards to the fridge and the storage of breast milk is having the knowledge that breast milk is not considered a biohazard. It is not considered bodily fluid the way that, say, urine is. Breast milk can be safely stored in the refrigerator. And being breastfeeding friendly means that all staff and coworkers understand that the milk is allowed to be in the refrigerator. Putting breastfeeding friendly into practice can look different in terms of signage. So you can see here that there's a door hanger. That might be what works for your organization. Other organizations put signs on the door that are permanent fixtures that say private, or some organizations can install locks that when the door is locked, a little light goes on that's either red or green for someone to come in. Other parts of practice can include scheduling. So working with a breastfeeding family or breastfeeding parent to schedule those pump breaks. A really nice example from a previous organization that has been recognized is a front desk staff who returned to work and needed to express her breast milk. So her supervisor worked with her to schedule her breaks in Outlook calendar so everybody knew what time she was using the lactation space. In addition, she found coverage for those times so that there was always someone manning the desk. And that is a really good example of people working together as a team to be breastfeeding friendly. Another component of breastfeeding friendly and putting it into practice is just that, being a team player and support. A lot of times in a workplace, a single eye roll or a joke about how somebody gets to take so many breaks or how it must be nice to go sit down for 20 minutes. All of those things can be really detrimental to a breastfeeding mom and her relationship with an already really difficult task. And so a breastfeeding friendly organization does not tolerate that kind of bias and discrimination. So what will this look like in your organization? How will you support breastfeeding families? Will you have a private room set up exclusively for nursing? Will you schedule time for a room to be used for nursing but can otherwise be used for other things? Can you let a student or a visitor use a private room to pump if they need to, or breastfeed in private if they need to? How will you ensure that the breastfeeding staff member is truly in an environment of support? How will you convey to other team members and other staff the importance of being breastfeeding friendly?
Let's talk about promotion. Promotion is a very important component. Letting your employees and non-staff know that your organization is a breastfeeding friendly organization could be crucial to a breastfeeding mother. Some ways to achieve this are by sharing resources. Any resource that you may have, including HR, could be very important to a breastfeeding mother or anyone interested on lactation support. Make sure that you inform your new staff about the importance of your policy and what practices you have in place. It will be important to regularly remind your staff about any updates that you have in your organization. Make sure that you post signage, and even if you are recognized, that could be a good signage to make the public know that your organization is a breastfeeding friendly organization and it's trying to achieve good goals for lactation mothers. Celebrate World Breastfeeding Week or have a bulletin board. It's allowed and supportive to be creative. Every organization can celebrate and promote breastfeeding in their own way.
You've been officially trained on all 4 components of a breastfeeding-friendly community organization: policy, knowledge, practice, and promotion. Here are a few questions that will help you prepare for recognition. We suggest taking a few notes, as these questions will be useful when completing a final checklist. The final checklist will be reviewed at the end of this webinar. Do you have a written policy of some kind in place that protects breastfeeding mothers, both employees and visitors? How do staff know about this policy? Do your staff know the importance of putting policy into practice? Do they know why this policy even exists? Are they aware of the federal and state laws? Do staff understand why their coworker may need to take frequent breaks? Who in your organization is responsible for providing breastfeeding mothers with policy and practice information? How will a staff member handle a situation where one visitor asks another breastfeeding visitor to cover up? Where would an employee that had to pump do so? Is it private, comfortable, not a bathroom? And finally, how do people know about the 4 components of breastfeeding friendly and your answers to all of these questions?
After implementing all of these components, you will meet criteria for recognition.
So what is the process? Organizations who wish to be awarded Breastfeeding Friendly need to complete the Breastfeeding Friendly Community Organization Checklist. This checklist should have been received alongside this webinar in an email. If you did not receive the checklist, please email one of the team members below. The checklist is 3 pages. The first page will be organization and personal information about who is filling out the checklist. The second page is a matrix showing you all of the different levels of being breastfeeding friendly. The third page will be for your organization to plug in the various components you have of breastfeeding friendly, and so you can determine what level you're going to be recognized at. The checklist does not need to be completed in any order, although by having all staff complete this training, you've already completed an item on the checklist.
Our team will also provide any additional technical assistance needed. This can include policy review, whether your organization needs to create or update the lactation policy, support preparing a private lactation space, support with marketing and promotion, and any other questions that you may have.
Your organization will receive official signage designating it as breastfeeding friendly. This can be put front and center in your location so everyone that enters knows that you are breastfeeding friendly. Organizations in Cochise County will be awarded official recognition in August at a Cochise County Board of Supervisors meeting. We want to thank you for taking the time to watch this breastfeeding friendly training webinar. We look forward to officially recognizing your organization as breastfeeding friendly.